What?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
What?
I got 2 words for you.
4 minutes, The Rock says, know your role.
Is having a fight. All-star wrestling, why that's for me. A super destroyer is on TV. He's got brute strength and all the moves. He's number 1, go spread the news. Tell Jesse the body and all the rest. He's the greatest, he's the best. A super destroyer Mark 2. Stand back and watch what he can do. A super destroyer.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode 28 of the Middle-Aged Outlaws podcast. I am Ross, and I am here as always. No, I'm not. Hold on a minute. Adam can't be here this week, unfortunately, but I do have his younger brother, Ezekiel. Ezekiel, how's it going?
It's a good thing that you've, kept me up with that, because I would have had no idea what you were talking about.
What are you talking about?
Your favourite current storyline?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. How you doing? You right?
Yeah, I'm alright, thanks. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I have a giant thank you to give you for the present that you gave me, which is SummerSlam 2002. One unbelievable pick you gave us for watching. Watched it last night, so it's very fresh in the brain.
Awesome. Yeah, it was good. It's a good show. We'll get there as we talk through. But yeah, that was a fun watch, that one.
So, normally when we're doing historical things, I like to look back and see if there's any sort of events that have happened round about when the pay-per-view was. So, August 2002. For the last one, we went back to August 1992, and there were some quite significant things that happened. This time, I was really struggling. I don't have anything. Someone called Lil Tecca was born. That's what we're talking about here. So, I've no little cheeky bits of fun to get us started. We'll just go straight in to the pay-per-view. But let's find out, why did you pick SummerSlam 2002?
Okay, so the last time we did one, you picked SummerSlam 92.
Correct.
And I'd had it in my mind. We'd done a lot of things, like we'd gone through the Manias and picked our favourite Manias, which was watching a lot of Mania. We'd done Rumbles, so I'd watched a lot of Rumbles. And SummerSlam's just like that. It's that big event that I hadn't really gone back and watched an awful lot of. So I was thinking, I'll stick with the SummerSlam theme. And then once I decided I was doing that, I remembered that, it'd been months ago, or maybe even a couple of years ago, I was looking, you sometimes get a night where you're just like, I want to watch a pay-per-view. I don't know what pay-per-view, I just want to watch one. Sure. And so I Googled it, and I looked up best pay-per-views to watch, and there's loads of Manias listed, and I'm thinking, I've seen them all multiple times. And then right near the top of most lists was this SummerSlam 02. And I remember thinking, I'll keep that in mind. But I never actually got around to going and watching it. So when you'd made your pick and I thought, it's me next, I thought, which SummerSlam was it that was on that list that was near the top? And I found it, and I was like, going with that one. And when I looked at the card, I thought, hey, it has to be good, right? It has to be.
Like we've seen with WCW that a card on paper does not equal a card in reality, a 5-star card. So it's an unbelievable pick, and it's an unbelievable pay-per-view. Sometimes we have some of our sort of favourite times talk about shows when they are pretty awful. But I absolutely loved I don't have any complaints about any matches. I could try and find some for our own sort of comedy purposes, but it's an amazing pick.
I've only got, I tried, remember we used to, I think when we were watching a lot of stuff and we were thinking we can't go through everything, we were doing like what was good, what was not so good.
Yep.
And I decided I would keep that, and then I've got one thing in the not so good, and it's only one.
Okay.
But I'm thinking, do I just say it and then it's out the way and then we can move on? Because it's not actually a match such.
I'm worried about what it is. What if it changes my whole perception of this golden pay-per-view?
It shouldn't, because it's not a match.
It's Stephanie and Bischoff.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Why does it get so weirdly sexual? I don't.
Yeah, why does she look? There's a point where she looks at his crotch.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a little pause and looks at his... Why does she do that? What's it got to do with RVD having the Intercontinental title? Damn it.
And then there's I can't remember if this is in the same segment, but after he's bragged about, it must be, because after he's bragged about his show now having the Intercontinental belt, she looks him up and down and then laughs and then walks off. And I'm thinking, is that going somewhere? Because that was a weird segment, just weird. That's my only criticism of this show, was that whole thing.
And unfortunately, these little vignettes are peppered throughout the show. It's kind of like the running storyline is that they're both GMs of Raw and Smackdown. So we should probably point this out, this is our first SummerSlam after the inaugural brand extension. And I want to say it's maybe 4 or 5 months into the separate Raw and Smackdown rosters.
Okay.
So that's why we have this whole... They're really pushing it. This is a Raw... Let's show the Raw roster. Let's show the SmackDown roster. So, and we get split commentary teams as well. Here we've got JR and King representing Raw, and Michael Cole and Taz representing SmackDown on the different matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's why we're getting these... quite simply awful little bits in between where they're clearly reading scripts and it's just so unnatural looking. Yeah,
I don't know if I feel like Stephanie maybe got better at just being a character, because this seemed bad. Just the way she was acting through it seemed bad.
It did. But Bischoff looked a little bit like Rocco that we talked about in the last.
So that's what became of Rocco. Okay.
He started out on the front of the motorbike and then... Hey, he does ride motorbikes as well, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Yeah.
Could have solved the mystery. So that's you set the scene. That's where you got the inspiration from.
Yep.
We'll speak about my pick for next podcast at the end, but my God, I have struggled. There's no topping this. Unless I just pick WrestleMania 17, then there's no topping this pay-per-view.
You could deliberately pick a really bad one, and then it kind of sets the bar quite low, which helps me the next time.
Nice, okay. Invasion it is then. Shall we jump into our matches?
Let's go for it. Yeah.
How is there a better opener?
Yeah, this is something I wanted to speak about, because I'd said to you, we can talk through, what happens in each match, but I feel like that somehow doesn't really paint the picture enough, just talking through moves and things like that. You've got the opening match being Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio, who are, we know they're very good workers, very good performers. Kurt Angle is sort of known to be the guy that adapted better to professional wrestling quicker than anyone ever had. And Rey Mysterio, I assume, probably considered the best, or certainly one of the best high flyers ever. And it's a good dynamic. They have a really good match between them. It just gels together really well. Mm-hmm. And there was something I remembered when I've been listening to some of the Kurt Angle podcasts that he does, and he talks about this era when they had, it was like, he was on SmackDown, and quite a few of the guys we'll speak about were on SmackDown, but he felt at the time like SmackDown was the wrestling show, and they were kind of just allowed, not free from the restrictions of storylines, but it was about the wrestling on SmackDown. Mm-hmm. And he talks about, I think it's like the SmackDown 6 that he refers to, and it's him, Rey Mysterio, Benoit, I think Eddie Guerrero for a period of time, and there's he named 6 of them, and you could, I think so, and you could basically mix up who the matches were, but you knew you were going to get a really good match, regardless of who you were working with. And he was adamant that although Raw was the SmackDown show, all the good wrestling was on SmackDown at the time. And you can kind of see what he's talking about as, these two face off. And I remember when I was, I think when I was younger, you would hear things about people being, their position on the card. And you look at, you know, if you're on first, are you like, what's it referred to, like a curtain jerker or something like that? Yeah. But I think the perception of it's changed massively, because you hear, you know, one of the reasons Jericho gives is leaving WWE after his last run was that he had this storyline going with Kevin Owens. It was going to originally be for the title at WrestleMania, then they got bumped down the card, but they ended up just kind of middling in the card, and that annoyed him more because he basically said, put us on first or last. Yeah. And I think first has now got the sort of respect it deserves as a position, because it's how you start your show. Yep. And there aren't really bad matches on this card as such, but what a great way to start is just with a really, really good wrestling match.
It's unbelievable. A couple of things I've written in my notes here. You've sort of touched on it. The chemistry between the two is just perfect. It feels, as I've written down, that it feels like Rey Mysterio was made for Kurt Angle to wrestle against.
Yeah.
It allows him to do everything that makes him look really impressive, but also he's so good at selling and throwing himself about the place that he makes Mysterio look believable, that he could beat somebody of his sort of the Olympic caliber. Yeah. It's 100 mile an hour. It's constant. You can't look away. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Like I say, I genuinely don't know. I can't think off the top of my head, and I've had a little bit of a think if I can think of a better opener to a show. I'm struggling.
I think there's one. Was it match one? Is Bret Owen? Is that?
Yes, WrestleMania 10.
That's probably the other one that jumps out straight away. But like what I loved about this is that there is a little bit of storyline in there, you know, and they'll tell you about the fact that Mysterio's scored a win against Angle, scored a pinfall against Angle. Angle is angry about that, almost embarrassed about that, and has vowed to make him tap out and wants to break his ankle. And it's such a simple story, but it's enough. Yep. It's enough for carrying a match through. And yeah, I feel like, you know, through quite a lot of his career, you know, Kurt Angle was up against wrestlers similar size to him. A lot of it. He's not a massive guy. He's a big guy, but he's not a massive guy. But yeah, you get to see this side where he is physically dominating, and able to do, you know, all his suplexes and his throws and things like that. But what they didn't do in any way through the match is bury Mysterio. No. You come out of it, I think, in my mind, with him elevated a bit, even though he's lost the match, because he was able to hang in there.
Aye, absolutely. Aye.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, obviously it starts off fast paced. Mysterio, I think always would start off fast paced. Some really good sequences. It feels like, you know, Angle's trying to, as he logically would, get it on the mat and wrestle. Whereas Mysterio's trying to keep him on his feet, be a bit faster. And just that really basic match logic that should be there.
Believable.
Yeah.
Like Rey Mysterio's a lot smaller, he's a lot quicker, so he tries to keep him on his toes and keep moving constantly. Yeah. Like you say, Angle's trying to pin him down. It's all logical.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you've got your spills out to the floor, you've got some dives, but what you've got is a lot of wrestling, a lot of counters, and this idea that Mysterio's so, I don't know, quick and slippery type thing, that Angle can't hold him down for any length of time to properly dominate, but it feels like he's physically on top for most of the match. Yeah. I think you know, at the point the submission comes, there was something else that was sticking in my head, again, from the Kurt Angle podcast. He's not the most, like, electrifying podcast you've ever heard, but he doesn't hold anything back. He will just say exactly what. Yeah. I mean, he speaks a lot about his own problems and issues and stuff like that, but he's not in any way guarded about what he says, which is quite refreshing from some of them. But he talks about the fact that in promos, he says, I was never a promo guy, but I could deliver them, and I felt like I got quite good at them. But he said that the thing that he would always do is he wouldn't make outlandish guarantees or claims. He would always try to keep it in the realms of realism, which, you know, if he's going on a promo before this match, by the sounds of it, which is, I'm going to make him tap out, And, he does make him tap out. Whereas he said that, he hated hearing things like, I'm going to kill that guy and stuff like that. You're like, well, you're not, you're just, so he tried to always keep that within the realms of realism. And he's had a couple of attempts to get the ankle lock applied, with the odd, counters and scrambles and being too near the ropes and things like that, but eventually drags him to the middle of the ring. And, as we mentioned earlier, Mysterio's got no real option but to tap out. But it's that feeling of he looked on that level, and you're thinking that's another guy that you can then see right at the top of a card.
Yeah. I really liked the way that the finish came about, with the way that Mysterio had him on the top turnbuckles. He was going to hit a Frankensteiner, and just an intelligent reversal where Angle sort of takes it a little bit but lands on his feet.
Yeah.
And shows the sort of difference in power to be able to just drag him in the middle of the ring and put on the ankle lock. It's amazing. Really,
yeah,
really
it was a good, as you say, that was a good finishing sequence, because again, that reality feeling, he could have the power to stop that. Was that Hurricane Rana being applied, and basically stand up to block it. And because we'd already seen in the match a couple of Hurricane Ranas that were successful, you're thinking, well, yeah, he's come up with a way of countering it.
Yep.
Just a really good logical match.
And I was also pleasantly surprised. That way where you're kind of programmed to expect to see things. I kind of expected to see him trying to break his ankle after the match or something like that. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. That was it. It was done.
Yeah, me too. I was watching thinking he'll go back or he won't release. There'll be something. But no, just he won. That's it. You move on. Really, really, really good.
Brilliant. Then we jump to Stephanie and Bischoff backstage, and this is where they come together. Stephanie's walking along the hallway with someone, and she said something like, "Tell Eric Bischoff that I said blah de blah." The guy goes in one direction, she turns round and walks into her room, and Eric Bischoff is sitting smiling at her like a Ken doll.
Yeah.
That was weird. And then they have this scripted back and forth and decide that they're going to sit in the same room.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually take a note on whether things are SmackDown or Raw, and I kind of wish I had, just to compare what you were saying about the wrestling versus storyline stuff.
Neither did I, but I think Flair Jericho is Raw. I think,
and it is interesting what you said there about what Angle was saying, because you can actually kind of see it.
Yeah,
when you're looking through the matches on the card.
Because you would think. Obviously, Chris Jericho would fit in very well on the SmackDown side, and probably at times would be wishing he was on that side. But we've got that again. We've mentioned before how they do the packages to fill you in on where we are with storyline. I had no idea Fozzy were a thing in 2002.
Nah. I don't ever remember Jericho performing on Raw with Fozzy or anything.
No, so
if this is past me.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know for sure. I think I probably was watching live at this point, but I can't. There's a lot of it I can't remember, which is a shame, because based on this, it was pretty damn good. So yeah, we've got we see Ric Flair interrupting basically a Fozzy performance, and Jericho's not taking too kindly to that. He's basically charged the stage and he's attacked Jericho, and
Flair looked like a madman in that little video. He grabs a guitar and is covered in blood, I think. Yeah,
I don't know what whether he had a role or he was just an active performer here, Flair, or I don't really know.
So round about this, so SummerSlam 2002. So Flair returned at Survivor Series 2001. Sorry, the night after. Remember, and he'd bought the shares in WCW.
Oh yes,
ECW.
Yes. Yeah.
Then I think he fought the Undertaker at WrestleMania 18, which would have been in this year. And I want to say as a result of losing that match, he lost his shares.
I think he like gave them up to have the match or something like that.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That's how the brand split came about, because he gave his shares to the board, Linda McMahon.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he must have just been on the roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this match has come about and is kind of played as a, it's obviously young guy versus veteran. They actually position it, I think certainly the announcers do, as figure of four against the walls of Jericho. I assume these guys would have crossed paths in WCW. I don't know if they had matches at all when they were there, but I must admit, when I see Ric Flair, I kind of get a little feeling of dread. and I was thinking I might not love this, but I actually really enjoyed this match.
Me too. I feel the same. And sometimes if I'm looking for, similar to what you were saying there, you're sort of looking through the network for something to watch, and you'll look through a pay-per-view, and there's a lot that I've never seen, probably between like 03 and, I don't know, 08, 09 sort of thing.
Okay.
And it's like Ric Flair versus Fit Finlay in a hardcore match, and you're just like, what on earth? Ric Flair versus Jeff Hardy in a TLC match, and you're just like, nah, I don't think I'm going to bother.
Yeah, I'd heard when they brought him back, they didn't really have any intention of him being an in-ring performer, but it's obviously ended up happening, and I assume he's pushed for it. I don't think he ever, in fact, even to this day, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to be retired. I'm sure he still wants to be having matches, but what he needs when he's having a match, and even, where are we, 20 years ago here, I think he needed somebody who could do a fair chunk of the legwork for him. The worst thing, God, to imagine a Ric Flair against Vince McMahon, but, somebody will probably book it at some point.
I found it interesting that, just in kind of in relation to what you're saying there, I found it interesting that in comparison to the previous match, which was 100 miles an hour, move after move, technical moves, high flying, basically what Flair does in this match is chops and punches. Yeah. And I found it pretty much just as engaging as the first match.
I think it worked as a nice balance, because you've had the fast start, then you've got things paced a little calmer here. I do like this Jericho. He's like a just fantastically cocky, brash, annoying guy, but just so watchable. I mean, he's always had that, charisma about him. And yeah, I just like the character. It draws me in. And there's enough, Flair's taken bumps, and there's enough in that, to have it be an engaging match. If it was just the chops and the punches and the plodding around and things like that, I think it'd probably it'd lose something.
He's probably taking the lion's share of the offense from Jericho, I would just say.
Yeah, because there's a point the fight goes to the outside. Jericho's removing the padding on the guardrail, and puts Flair onto it and into it, and it's quite a while. It's certainly, according to my notes, before Flair's really getting any offense in the match. And Jericho's a good seller as well, so it's you then see Flair doing his strutting, and I think being fair and honest about it. If you're going to see Ric Flair at a match, I think you want to see him doing that. You want to see him doing his walk and doing his chops and doing his woo. That was a poor one, sorry. And you've got some, wrestling moves in there as well. You've got Jericho countering a suplex attempt to go for the walls. You've got Jericho going for a walls and Flair Flair going for the walls, Jericho countering to apply a figure of four.
The figure of four. That was an odd spot. I like that, because they both obviously tried each other's submission moves, but then Jericho had Flair in the figure four for a long time, and Flair's sort of shuffling his way over to the ropes, and he looks like he's going to tap. He grabs the rope and then taps.
Yeah, I put some in. I suppose that's to, I don't know, buy them another match, probably, because the announcers were really focusing on did he tap first or did he, and they slow it right down and show you it. But what I'd sort of picked up on it was the walls is really simple to apply. But it looked like Flair was really struggling with that, but yet he can apply a far more complicated move, absolutely no problem.
Yeah.
It was a bit strange, and I get it. You maybe do want that element of story of, well, it's not his move, so he might mess it up. He might not quite get it right, but the walls is one of the simpler moves to apply. Yeah, and I think, eventually we've got Flair getting to the ropes. Basically, I think when they slow it right down, they show you he just grabs, for some reason, the middle rope, even though he could have grabbed the bottom rope quite a bit earlier. But
does he really? Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. They want to have the drama of him stretching up for it for some reason. And then you've got the tap just a second after that's happened. So Jericho's thinking he's basically won. Jericho being frustrated with the situation, Flair catching him with some chops, the ref ending up with impaired vision. It's a little bit of somebody's banged into him.
Wee bump,
yeah. And then Flair with one of those classically telegraphed low blows.
China low blow, isn't it?
Yeah, they really like to involve the crowd in the setup for that one. So the ref doesn't see it, obviously. And then Flair applying the figure of four. I love Jericho's selling. He's selling the figure of four like it's the most painful thing he's ever been in his life. And Flair, even as a babyface, has always had that sort of dirtiest player in the game moniker. And it's... when I was first, basically I'd seen the results before I actually watched, and I was thinking, I think I was just checking match times or something like that, and I was thinking, should Flair be going over Jericho here? But the way they've done it, there's no real damage done.
It works.
Yeah.
I want to say that they have a rematch at the next pay-per-view as well.
Yeah, I think that would make sense given what happens in the match. But yeah, it's still legendary Ric Flair, so having a couple of match series isn't going to do Jericho any harm, I don't think. But yeah, I just enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, because anything probably certainly from this time onwards with Ric Flair, I'm just a little bit unsure of.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what I found quite interesting? This must be to do with the age that we currently are. But Flair looks like an old man. And I think they said he's 52. He's not an old man, but he's not in his peak or anything like that either. Jericho is now the same age as what Flair was then.
Oh, wow.
And Jericho doesn't look... He looks different, don't get me wrong. But he doesn't look how Flair looks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's surprising, but yeah. Maybe, I don't know, did Flair always look a little bit old?
Maybe.
Whereas Jericho, I mean, the only thing that annoys me every time I see Jericho now is I just wish he would get a haircut. You have to give up on that. There's a certain point in life where even if you are a rock star as well as a wrestler, just give up on it. 'Cause he didn't have, there was a few years ago, I remember one of his comebacks to WWE, he had short hair. But yeah, he's been letting that go for a while.
Yeah. But a good match again. Different, I think that's the good thing about it. A different type of match, and also really, really entertaining. Yeah,
it's something we can talk about as we go, but the order that they put matches in, I think is actually, it's really important, because to have that fast-paced opener, then slowing it down a bit, and then, we'll talk about the next match when we get to it, and then it just feels to me like the whole show was paced properly.
Perfectly,
and the order of the matches, I can't look at the matches and think of a better order to put them in. I think it just worked.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. From this match, we jump to the back and we come to Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. The next big thing with his agent backstage, and Heyman's giving him the pep talk. Lesnar, to me, looks ginormous. I don't know if he's bigger than he currently is. I don't know if it's the lack of cock chest, perhaps. But,
it's different. He looks really different. I mean, facially and stuff, he looks so young.
Yep.
Here.
25, I think he is.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, he's huge. And I imagine he probably still is a very similar size now. But yeah, I still remember the first time I saw him. Like it was on a Smackdown or a Raw or something like that I wasn't watching all the time at the point he came in.
Right.
And I remember like seeing him on a show, and they're like, they still had all these stars that I'd known from when I was watching like every week and every show. But I was like, who is that? You know, there's,
Machine.
yeah. And you can see, you know, the story JR tells about Vince saw him across a room or something like that and was like, but you can see it because I see him and think, Jesus, you know, he stands out from a crowd, put it that way.
Do you think that gif of Vince when he's in his seat? Yeah. I know that's from an episode of Raw and Stacey Keibler's dancing on the table, but it could quite easily be when he sees Brock and Sable walk into a room together, arm in arm.
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, still give me the Stacey Keibler on a table, but it is impressive. He's got an eye-catching look about him.
Certainly does. I've wrote here in my notes, whoever decided to put Heyman with Lesnar's a genius.
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
what it is about it. It just works perfectly.
Because I haven't watched much current product, but I'm led to believe Lesnar's doing okay now. You know, he's not had Heyman, and he's
quite
very
entertaining. In the little bits I saw up to leading up to WrestleMania, it's pretty entertaining. It looks like he's just kind of having a bit of fun.
But I've got a feeling at this point and at this time it wouldn't have gone that way. You know, I assume he's relaxed into who he is now and all that. Whereas at this point, and it's not just having the mouthpiece, it's the right mouthpiece, and it's spot on. I mean, I know when he was going through, was it OVW it was at the time?
Yep.
The developmental?
Yeah.
I think Heyman had some involvement there, and he's probably not, between the invasion angle ending and Lesnar being brought up, he's probably not had an on-screen role until Lesnar's arrived, I would have thought. I think he was probably away for a little while, but it's just a perfect combination.
It really is. Brilliant. So we've got them backstage, he's hyping them up, all that sort of stuff, and then we come to our next match, which the premise of which I want to say is around, it seemed to be about who's the bigger sex symbol. They didn't really give us too much information, but do you know what? I didn't really care.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a really good match. So we've got Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat, in the versus Edge.
Yep.
And I think I want to say Edge. No, I was going to say Edge is our current King of the Ring, but Lesnar is.
Yeah, that's right. I think Edge had won the one before.
The year earlier.
Yeah. And I don't know. I really enjoyed this match, and I've always preferred heel Edge. I think that's see, when he's babyface Edge, I feel like he's fine, and you know the crowd are, I think, pretty with him. They're certainly anti-Eddie through this. There were a lot of signs that I saw that I was thinking,
Latino Heat has smelly feet. I like that one.
I saw that one. I saw something really basic that just said "deport Eddie," and he was really good at being a heel. Even when he was a babyface, he was a heel.
Exactly.
And in this matchup, yeah, you do want Edge to be the babyface. I just always think every time I see Edge, I prefer him as a heel.
It's just a bit meh.
Yeah, he's a good worker. He's a very skilled worker in the ring. But he doesn't, as a babyface, I never quite feel like the charisma is quite there.
A poor man's Christian, you might want to say.
Well, I mean, I say that about everyone.
Fair.
Yeah. But, you know, and as a team, when they were like, you know, doing their, 5-second poses and stuff like that, that all worked, and that was fine, and there was a sort of goofy comedy side to it.
Yeah.
But here, I don't think he's really quite found a character yet.
100%. No pun intended, Adam, but he's lacking a bit of edge, if you will. That's terrible. That's really bad. It genuinely is, though. He's lacking something, isn't he?
Yeah. Was that in your notes?
No, it wasn't.
Good.
That's pre-prepared. Been wanting to rip that one out for a while.
But it doesn't take away from how good an actual match it is, which,
not at all.
Which is, I suppose, the main thing here, because much as we're trying to catch up on storyline as we're going, we didn't, like you say, there wasn't an awful lot about this. They mention a few times as they're going through that Eddie is so jealous of Edge, and that just being a thing, without going into too much backstory about it. But they're both, Eddie Guerrero is such a good worker, and I think this every time I watch his matches, because he can do everything. He's really good at selling. He's so good at the sneaky heel things. And even just the looks, like he'll do something and then give the crowd a look. And it's the kind of thing I don't know, you don't see an awful lot of people doing nowadays.
Aye, it's really believable. Like he genuinely does not, he can't stand the crowd. That's what his face is kind of like.
Yeah.
And the way that he methodically goes about deconstructing Edge's shoulder here is just like proper brilliant technical wrestling. And we were waxing lyrical about Bret Hart last time. And like that's a sort of wrestling performance I find that you got here for Eddie Guerrero was brilliant. Yeah, same. I really liked it. I liked the fact that, as soon as that weakness is shown and exposed, he goes after it. And the logic to it, I mean, Edge wants to hit a spear. So Eddie's trying to focus on the shoulder and the arm, take it out of commission. And you've got actually heel Eddie, he is a heel, and there's the little things, but he's for quite a chunk of this match just clean out wrestling Edge. And your heel doesn't have to be cutting every corner at every possible opportunity. Not when they can work as believably and as well as somebody like Eddie Guerrero can. Yeah, and he's not doing the other thing is he's not doing flashy moves. He's just like trying to take his opponent apart, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Apart from, I say that, but the absolute highlight of this match for me is he hits a frog. He hits his arm with the frog splash.
Yes.
The shoulder and arm that he's been working on for the majority of this match. You think he's going to... It looks strange because Edge is in quite a peculiar position. You think he's not going to try and hit a frog splash when he's almost getting up.
Yeah.
But he hits the shoulder. It's amazing. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that was good. There's really nice moves in this. And you've got Edge trying to perform some offense, and it's little comebacks, and he'll get a few moves going before either the shoulder will give out or Eddie will attack it and get the advantage again. Which, again, just good logical wrestling. There's a few spots I like. There's like Edge running in for a spear and Eddie hitting him with a drop kick. Everything looked really smooth. But not in a, sometimes it looks too smooth.
Choreographed.
It looked real enough, but, just like the chemistry was there. They just meshed well together in the match. We've got Eddie going for a frog splash, Edge getting the knees up. And again, it's just well executed. It looks good. Is Edge's DDT called the Edgecution?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't like that, and I don't like Edge-o-matic. Shut up, Michael Cole.
So the announcers do a job of trying to sell the Execution DDT as usually it's a winning move, because he hits it, it's a 2 count, and they're talking about you never see anyone kick out of that.
He kicks out the Execution.
Now, given that I hadn't really heard of the Execution, I'm not sure how over it, but at least they're trying. They're trying to sell it as a big thing. I love the way, I think Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit are my favourites at doing these snap suplexes.
Amazing.
I just think they always look great when they do them.
Yep.
And he's got a bridge on one for a 2 count. You've got him going up to do another frog splash, but Edge gets up, catches him on the turnbuckle. Eddie knocking Edge down from the ropes with headbutts to the shoulder. Again, it just felt real. How do you react in that situation?
Yeah.
That's where I think he goes for the frog splash on the arm and shoulder. What have I got here? Eddie has Edge. Eddie has, my notes don't make any sense here, but never mind. Something else about going on the turnbuckle, but Edge throws him down. And then Edge hitting a spear as they're running the ropes for the win.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were...
Sorry, go on.
I don't know if they were... you get these finishing moves out of nowhere. I suppose it's become the RKO has become the big one, but I always liked the finishing move where it could just be hit all of a sudden.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I like in that there's a pattern within this pay-per-view. I think you get one, I want to say the whole time you get one finishing move kicked out of the whole pay-per-view.
Oh, nice.
I like that Edge's spear comes out of nowhere, but it's still enough to finish it. The only thing I didn't know was I've written down here that he uses the uninjured shoulder for the spear, but I didn't know if that was actually right or not.
Okay.
But that would have been nice if that was the case.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I mean, given how logically they played everything, I think you're probably right. I hope you're right, because it would just round it off nicely. Yeah.
Again, a really, really good match. You're, what are we, 3 for 3?
Yeah.
We go backstage with the coach. He is with the Anti-Americans, and at this stage that is Lance Storm, Christian, and Test. And they cut a kind of lazy anti-American promo, which is like a bit poor man's Heart Foundation 97. Is that unfair?
No, it's not good. It's probably, aside from the Bischoff and Stephanie things, it might be the worst thing on the show.
Just, I think Lance Storm and Christian can talk. Definitely, they clearly can. I really like Lance Storm. Test, maybe just stick to saying America sucks, but like the other two are good talkers.
Yeah,
but it feels like they decided they wanted to have an anti-American gimmick. Fine.
Yeah,
but they didn't put any more thought into it. The Un-Americans, it's just.
It does. It feels, I don't know, lazy and rushed or thrown together.
Aye, totally.
Yeah, and as you say, Christian and Lance Storm are good workers. I've always viewed Christian as a good all-rounder. I think he can do a bit of everything. Lance Storm's really good in the ring. And I quite liked his, if I can be serious for a moment stuff. I don't remember ever really hearing Test deliver any promos, but that's fine. He's the big guy standing in the back. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel, I feel like the announcers are then trying to sell these Un-Americans as, what is it JR said? You messaged me something.
Who are these Un-Americans? What do they want? What is their motive? They're called the Un-Americans, JR. What the fuck do you think their motive is?
And who are they? Well, it's Christian, Lance Storm, and Test.
What's he on about?
Yeah, and they've obviously been, instructed or told, you have to be furious that this is happening because even the heel announcer, which is Jerry Lawler, is against the Un-Americans. Yeah. He's very negative about everything to do with them. And I didn't hate the match. I thought the match was fine. But it's everything around it and the gimmick and all that. It just felt a bit rubbish to me.
It did. And I think we've spoke about them before. I think William Regal must join them at some point as well.
Yeah.
It's just, definitely, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It feels a bit rushed.
Yeah.
And there's probably potential for something there. And I felt the same about the match. It was all right.
Yeah.
Nothing says American like Goldust and Booker T. Why did they say that? That doesn't mean anything.
No, it's not like, especially the Goldust character. You've never really looked and thought, that's American. It's
nothing says American like an androgynous gentleman with gold face paint.
It's just weird. And I've always thought Goldust was a decent worker, you get very caught up in the character and all that at times, but he's good in the ring. Booker T, I've always liked. If you just said it's these guys against these guys in the match, I would have thought that's fine. I like Christian. I like all the performers in this match. It actually made me think as I was watching through it. Do you remember when they did the group of the Hart Foundation and Brett started running down America, but I don't know, it came across as really genuine, and he was sick of the fans, and at the time they were cheering for anti-heroes, and there was a logic to all of it, everything he was saying. And that almost made this seem worse, because there's nothing behind this.
Yeah, it's like a caricature of it.
Yeah. So it's the kind of story that can be done well. It just needs, I don't know, more thought.
As soon as I saw, I don't remember this at all, and I don't even remember watching this show. I've definitely watched it because I can remember watching Rock Brock, but as soon as I saw the three of them being interviewed by Coach, and then Lance Storm and Christian came out themselves, I should have just fast forwarded to when Test came out and gave the big boot, because that was obviously what the finish was going to be.
Yeah, that was pretty clear. There's some okay stuff early on in the match. There's you've got Christian and Storm, cutting off the ring basically, and just some logic. They have Goldust isolated. He can't get to Booker T, and that's just your really basic tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
You've got a spot where Goldust does make the tag, but they've distracted the ref. He doesn't see it, so he has to stay in the ring. Booker T's getting more and more annoyed on the outside.
They do a really good job of building it up to like a really hot tag.
Yeah. Because there's another spot not long after where Goldust's getting close and close, and Storm runs round and pulls Booker T off the apron.
That was good.
And constant ref distractions, and then they get greedy and go for a concerto, but they miss, and then you've got Goldust finally gets I think a double clothesline, makes the hot tag. You've got Booker T coming in, cleaning house. He hits his big missile drop kick, which I always liked as a move. Thought it's a good looking move.
Yeah, same.
And then you've got Goldust taking out Lance Storm on the outside. Booker T's hit a scissor kick on Christian and Storm simultaneously.
That was good. I like
that. You've got the Spinneroonie, but all the while the ref's down in the corner, so you kind of know as you're watching this he's not going to be able to get the pinfall here. And then there's the inevitable Test run in, big boot, and then my man Christian getting the pin.
Nice. Un-Americans routine.
Yeah.
Much to JR's annoyance.
Oh, I've seen another thing I didn't like.
Are we going straight to it? We're going to WWE New York?
Oh no. Yeah, we can. I can't even remember the people's names.
Come on. But Jamie Noble. Now that's Australian. That is nothing like his accent. Woo!
What was it?
Come on, baby! No, that's not either.
What was her name?
Nydia.
Yeah, that's it.
She was a firecracker.
She's a terrifying woman.
What was the competition to see who she would snog?
Yeah.
Two random guys.
Yeah, and then she's just all over both of them, and he's cheering it on. And
Come
it's,
on, baby. I can't do his accent.
I think it's okay. I mean, I think you can. I don't think you'll ever have to do it again.
Fair. I used to quite like them. I liked that they had. I want to say he was light heavyweight or cruiserweight champion.
I think that's right.
For a while.
Yeah,
and he's quite a good technical wrestler.
Yeah, he was. He was a good worker. And then I remember, I'm sure there was a skit. Where skit? Yeah, I'll go with skit.
Huh?
Where he is with her at like the Playboy Mansion, trying to get her like a job in the Playboy Mansion. It's just really weird.
I want to say she was on like she was on Tough Enough or something like that.
Okay, so I bet he was definitely a decent worker. I remember that being a thing. I just remember thinking at times, can we just let him wrestle for a while? Just calm it all down, let him have a match, because I'm sure it seemed like he was never actually in matches for a while.
Poor Jamie. Well, he seemed like he was enjoying himself.
Yeah,
I think he might be an agent these days.
Okay, he'll have been having a laugh anyway. I'm sure it was fun to be part of, and I suppose if you're appearing on the shows, you're getting paid. So yeah. Yeah.
So our next match is Interbrand. Would that
Yes.
be an Interbrand match? We've got the Intercontinental title belt on the line. You wouldn't know it though, because it's blurred out for some bizarre reason.
Yeah.
I take
Why?
it had This is like right smack bang in the get the F out.
Okay.
Either. I don't know if it's they maybe just didn't replace the belt.
Okay.
So weird.
I was going to ask about that just in case you knew, because it's quite obvious every time it's in shot. It's blurred.
So we've got Benoit representing SmackDown?
Raw.
Yep.
And RVD on
RVD
SmackDown.
represents SmackDown.
No. Yes. Yes.
The thing is, I think I maybe read that Benoit and Guerrero moved over. They'd been on Raw and they'd moved over to SmackDown or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway. So I was kind of looking forward to this one. And I did enjoy it, but I do have a little bit of a quibble with the fact that Edge and Eddie Guerrero was a technical match that sort of focused on the shoulder, and then Benoit went and did the same thing in this match.
Yeah, I wonder. It always makes me wonder about. See how every match. I don't know how it was then. I hear how it is now. Whereas you've maybe got like, say, 4 agents working a show, and the matches get split up, and sometimes there's 2 on a match, and things like that. And it made me wonder if one agent has no idea what's happening in another match. And he's like, yeah, go for it. Go for the shoulder, go for it. And, there's no awareness that I was imagining, are the 2 of these guys watching in the back saying shit as that earlier match is going on.
That we're about to do.
Yeah. And are they thinking, well, we don't have time to change everything. So, that kind of thing. Because you do, and the thing is, in isolation, I think this is a good match. Mm-hmm. But I did agree, and I'd noted it, that there's just a few too many similarities in the story of the match. Not the storyline, just the things that are taking place throughout the match.
Yeah. Just as an aside, do you think that I was thinking about their theme songs? Both these theme songs are cracking. I thought that's a general theme throughout this pay-per-view. Do you think the title Forcible Entry would fly these days?
No. Yeah, you can't be. No, it's too much.
Did you purchase the Forcible Entry album?
I didn't. What? I didn't. Yeah, I was never really one for. I remember they started releasing albums, and there ended up being loads of them. I'm sure
they did.
But I never really got into buying them. Yeah, I bet I could go back and just listen to them all now. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, on Spotify, they only have a few of the songs from Forcible Entry available.
Really?
I was quite perturbed last night. Tell you that, Adam.
Oh no.
Anyway.
It's disappointing. I don't want to have to go on like Apple Music and buy them.
You don't.
Yeah.
Nobody's. No. Don't do that. Use YouTube. What's your thoughts on RVD generally?
So I like him, but I find him at times. I couldn't sit and watch multiple RVD matches.
You'd be watching the same match over and over, probably. Yes,
and that's the biggest issue I have with him. I think I'm watching this match. I don't think I'd watch one of his matches for a little while. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it. I think athletically he's really impressive.
Undeniable, aye.
And I like a match where he's in with a good worker. So he's Benoit is one of the best workers there was. And I think that they mesh together pretty well in terms of the physicality and what's going on. I actually put at the start of my notes, this is going to be stiff, this match. Cause I don't think, I don't think either of these guys really held back. But I enjoyed it, but I don't always enjoy his matches. I do find it pretty repetitive. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I would never be in a position where I just watched lots of his matches back to back, I suppose, unless we were rating wrestlers for some reason again. But we've already done that, and he wasn't even in the conversation. But yeah, I get it. 'Cause I know some fans are a little bit I think his style's different and they play up to that it's a slightly different style to his opponents, but his style's pretty much always the same.
Mm-hmm. I think that he changed his style when he went from ECW to WWF, WWE. I think that's probably. I think that was probably on purpose. I think he was probably either coached into doing it that way. But I just felt I really liked him in ECW, and didn't get me wrong, I'm the same as you. I enjoy watching him on a pay-per-view, but I just felt his character was a bit like, try to think the best way to describe it. It's just kind of like there's a bit of sheen taken off of his character or something. I don't know if it tried to make, if they try to present him more mainstream or something. I can't really put my finger on it, but it just felt like a sort of watered down version of his character for ECW, and his moveset as well.
I know what you mean, because I do think the moveset, I think someone in WWE will have looked and thought, well, you can't do that, and you can't do that. You know, there will have been things they'll just said where you're not doing those things on our shows. The character side, I mean, what I liked seeing ECW when he was the, brash, arrogant, it didn't really matter whether he was a heel or a babyface. He was kind of the same regardless. But he was always pitching himself as bigger than the company. Yeah,
I was just going to say, kind of full of himself.
Yeah, and, what do you call himself? Mr. Monday Night and stuff like that. And he can't really do that once he gets to WWE, because that's what he was always effectively threatening is, I'll just go. Aye. I'll just go and get a better job. And it really worked in ECW because he became, again, regardless of babyface or heel, he became one of the main guys. And the crowd, I always got the impression the crowd were kind of with him regardless of the story in ECW. Yeah. Whereas, here, I do definitely think they never quite hit on the right character, because they tried to push like a, I don't know, stoner dude type thing. Yeah. And I mean, apparently he liked his pot and all that, but there just should have been a lot more to it than that. And there never really was. Nah,
I want to say got involved in a weird sort of, they get in a sort of love triangle type thing with Stephanie and Triple H for a little while. I think there's better ways of using them. But like, getting back to this match, I pretty much loved everything that Benoit did. I've got a lot of notes here about Benoit. Everything that he does is deliberate. Yeah. I've also written here that a lot of RVD's moves could be construed as being sort of flippy shit, if you will. But I sometimes find, or I sometimes find if you're watching wrestling today, it's choreographed flippy shit. Whereas this felt like it was for a reason a lot of the time. He's trying to do damage. Rather than try to do a cool move, apart from that move where he did a cartwheel. I was just like, you don't get momentum off a cartwheel unless you're falling on your arse.
Yeah, you're going to slow all your momentum. Yeah, I've got some notes like that. I've written things like Benoit backbreaker, looks really sore. He was such a good worker, made everything look so believable. And I've written this a couple of times, or similar to this a couple of times. Benoit can go really fast paced, but it still feels like everything he does matters. And it's probably one of my complaints about nowadays is that it's one move, next move, next move, next move, when it's fast paced. Whereas Benoit was often pretty, pretty fast paced in that sense, but it still felt like everything he did counted in some way. Yep.
Even just knocking a guy down and then throwing an elbow on the floor was with a vengeance. Was it was just fully aggressive. Whereas I get what you're saying. Like, they'll bounce up and they'll hit them down. They'll bounce up and they'll bounce up and then they'll reverse it. Aye, I'm with you.
We've got. I think my notes quite quickly turned to Benoit's targeting the arm and shoulder. And then just some of the moves that take place after that. And again, it's not to say it makes it a bad match. It just felt a little bit like we've seen this. And I suppose that I'm guessing that kind of thing, that's maybe, I think you filled me in on this a bit. See when AEW started, when it was a little bit more of a free-for-all before Tony Khan took control, if you like, of what was actually going on in the product, that you would end up with the risk of repetitive things in matches, repetitive things in consecutive matches, and that became what they saw, or certainly what Tony Khan saw, as a big issue. And you can see how it was just based on this, because I didn't see whatever it was that brought them to that decision in AEW, but I can see that it takes a little bit of shine off this match, the fact that we've seen that kind of thing a couple of matches earlier.
Yeah. I want to say it was a Jericho thing. Jericho had addressed that.
Yeah.
In AEW. Aye, it definitely does. Like, in saying that, can we talk about the phase of 3 Northern Light suplexes whilst he's still holding his shoulder in a hammerlock?
Yes.
Never seen that before in my life.
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome.
It was amazing. I don't know if that's all part of like RVD's agility as well, probably.
Yeah.
But just the invention of doing something like that is just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I could see much as we maybe find him a little bit repetitive, RVD. I bet someone like Benoit would love working with him. Because he'd just be thinking, anything I want that guy's body to do, he'll be able to make it happen.
Aye.
Yeah, and there's some really impressive sequences of moves. You get the impression watching it, Benoit's skill set is so high. I think RVD's following the lead very much, but it works. Things look good. Like you mentioned some of the RVD stuff, but the vast majority of it looks good. And I think when he's doing it, when he's all into doing it, RVD's a pretty good seller as well.
Yeah.
I think he sort of remembers, I should be selling this, I should be hobbling, whatever it is, which again, some performers you don't really see it from. You see the big move that attacks something and they're just fine. But yeah, I thought there was some decent selling in the match. Benoit always sells well, but basically with everything that happens in the match, he's such a good performer. I think we've maybe mentioned this before, but I'd always wondered in that sort of period after what happened with him and his family, whether I'd be able to separate, to be able to watch and enjoy RVD Benoit matches. But he's just so good. He's so good at what he does. Yeah,
it's funny. I think as time goes on, and I think when we go back and watch stuff like this, you almost get a better appreciation for him now than I think I did when I was watching him. And that's obviously separating the man from everything he did and purely looking at his wrestling in the ring, but it's just unbelievable. It's a real shame, like if you took how Kurt Angle spoke on the microphone and gave that to Benoit, it'd been the best ever. Before he did what he did, obviously.
And I know some of the Angle speaks about him as, he's I think either favourite or right up there with favourite ever opponents.
Oh, really?
And I know he was somebody Bret Hart was desperate to work with, and they did, I think, a little bit in WCW. And it's one of them where he, in ring, he's at that level. We talked about, just as we watch through things, how impressed we are with Bret Hart and his ability to execute a match, and him very much being certainly in the category of the top couple of best ever in-ring performers. But Benoit he's right up there.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's a few nice matches where you've got a few nice sequences where you've got a suplex from the top turnbuckle by Benoit, but RVD turns in midair. That's, I think, the finishing sequence. Actually,
that's right. I really like that. That looks agony to take. I'm sure they control it well and all that, but it looks it.
I think the only thing I when I watch Benoit matches, see when he goes for the flying headbutt, that is still one where I'm kind of like, oh. or anything where he took a chair shot or anything like that.
Same.
Yeah.
The finish to this match is, like, for all we're saying about the sort of isolation of the shoulder and all that, the finish of this match is brilliant. You've described the superplex into the reversal, and then RVD just hits an absolutely phenomenal 5-star frog splash where he changes direction in midair.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
And I always loved it when he did the change of direction in midair. It adds something to it. And, you know, it's almost like showy for showy's sake, because, you know, the guy can position himself for it to be a really straightforward one, but it adds something to it.
I got a lot of time for that. I like that they showed in slow motion and all that as well.
Yeah.
So there we go. RVD walks away with Intercontinental Championship. Stephanie looks at Bischoff's crotch and laughs.
Yeah, it was a popular win with the crowd. I noticed. They popped for the RVD win because, like, I couldn't even tell you whether Benoit was babyface or heel or somewhere in between at this point. Yeah. But they popped for RVD. I think he was always pretty popular with a live crowd, but it was quite a reaction.
Nice. So next, this is where we got the JR. Who are these Un-Americans? We've got a bit of background about the Un-Americans before. I don't really think we got any background to why Undertaker and Test were fighting, apart from the Undertaker is American. And he's also a badass.
The only thing, see how we praised the sort of structure of this show in general.
Don't start disparaging the testicles.
Oh no, I'm not gonna.
Goodness.
It's not to do with this actual match. It's more the fact that it felt like there was more Un-Americans background before this match, which was the second match on the card featuring the Un-Americans, which, I don't know, it just seemed a bit strange. Now, Undertaker's obviously a huge draw, and going up against him is like putting a spotlight on Test.
I would have said the other way about, but okay.
I forgot you were a massive testicle?
A swollen testicle, if you will.
But yeah, I just found that a little bit strange, but you know, that is what it is. So yeah, are you wanting to talk about one of your favourites of all time?
I don't have a lot of notes on this. I was too engrossed, but the only thing that I really have of note here is that I felt quite sickened watching this match. That looking back on Mark Calloway's TED Talk thing that he did at the Hall of Fame, I don't think he mentioned Test putting him over, putting him on the map. Essentially, who was he up until this point?
Yeah, and that's a bigger issue than him not mentioning Mick Foley, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just because Test got a daughter on Twitter shouting about Undertaker no mentioning him doesn't mean that it's no important. The testicles are raging.
I've got a few notes for this.
Before you get the technicalities of the match, can I just mention something else that JR says?
Yep.
So he says that Undertaker is I think it was maybe King. One of them says that Undertaker is a former street fighter. Right?
Uh-huh.
Like, surely that went against him on his application to become a mortician.
He wasn't a mortician. It's Paul Bearer was the mortician. It's fine. Undertaker was just a dead guy.
He's hold on. He's called the Undertaker.
Yeah, but that's, you know, he's a dead guy.
Okay.
Anyway,
go on.
So yeah, because some background on the Un-Americans. Undertaker, I don't think I'd watched a show for a while where he was in the American Badass gimmick. Right. So you get the music and all that, and the motorbike entrance and all that kind of thing. It's a big man match, you know.
Yep.
Both pretty big guys. I felt like they actually gave Test quite a lot of this match. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of offense. He probably dominates about 75% of the match.
Yeah.
They've got him going toe to toe with Undertaker. I couldn't think at this point when Test and Albert had been, or whether that was still to come, or whether that had been a few years before.
I think that was around about 2000. So
Okay.
at this point, Test is coming off being in the Alliance.
Right.
And
okay.
I don't know if you remember at Survivor Series 2001. Obviously, I am a historian when it comes to Test. I don't know why I know all this. At Survivor Series 2001, he won a Battle Royal, which meant even if WCW lost, he would have kept his job.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Yes, that's right. I do remember that.
So,
yeah.
like, somebody somewhere's obviously thinks something of him, and then they've put him with Lance Storm and Christian.
Yeah. I can still see, like, watching this match, and yeah, he loses this match, but I still watch and think they've got something in mind for him. This is nowhere near a burial.
No,
you know,
I agree.
He's kept looking pretty strong. He loses the match, even with Christian and Lance Storm running down. All they basically do is run down, both catch a choke slam, and then that's about it for them. And Tess gets the big boot for a 2 count.
Yeah.
Tess brings the chair into the ring. That Jobsworth referee tries to grab it.
Who's it? Jack Doan?
I think it was, yeah. And then the Undertaker does a big kick. The chair flies into Tess' face. Tombstone for the pin win. But yeah, I still came out of it thinking, you know, Test, they can still go somewhere with Test here. I have no idea where they went with Test.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't.
Yeah.
So Taker grabs the American flag and flies it high because he is American.
Yeah.
And a badass.
Yeah.
And a dead man walking, according to his music.
Yeah.
And
all
a
of
street
that.
fighter.
Allegedly.
And, not a mortician, though.
Yeah, just a dead guy.
Dead guy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this, actually. I thought it was a good big man match, like you say.
It was probably the other one on the card that I was looking at thinking, but I thought it was done in an absolutely fine way. I liked that he wasn't buried because, you know, why bury him? It wouldn't have been necessary. And I would have come out of it thinking, you can still go somewhere with him. Undertaker gets the crowd friendly win. Yeah, that's all absolutely fine.
Right, Adam.
Right.
It's time to get serious.
Okay.
We get an amazing build-up package.
Yeah.
Going through the years, starting around about 1997, where we see the relationship that has been built between Hunter Hearst Helmsley, easy for me to say, and Shawn Michaels. We see them in their DX years, all the way through to Shawn retire in 1998 and coming back. We see Triple H turning on him on Raw. And what looked like quite a fun storyline where someone attacked Michaels and it turned out that it was in fact Triple H, even though he was feigning sympathy for him and he was going to find out who did it. They did the classic enhance thing that you get in the Jason Bourne films, and it turned out it was Triple H on the CCTV that attacked him.
Yeah.
And I love this storyline, this whole, like, you left, I'm the man now, you need me, you used me to stay at the top.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, really well done. Just out of that, like, when I'm watching it, because, you know, you sort of know, or at least I think we both knew going into this that they were really close. Michaels has obviously had his issues at the point when he's dropped the belt to Stone Cold and disappeared. And then I've seen it in some documentary, I heard it somewhere, about the fact that Triple H knew that the day after, the Raw after, he had to go out and take control, mm-hmm. and that involved, to a little extent, burying Michaels. Mm-hmm. And apparently there was a little bit of heat about that. You know, right. Michaels is basically thinking, I'm never going to wrestle again, and he's turned on the telly to see his best pal burying him to some extent, and becoming the man and becoming huge and having this. Where are we? If we're in 2002, he's probably been near the top of the card for 3 years, something like that. Yep. But he's basically been on a 5-year, trip towards the top anyway. But to put it in a package and have a logical Triple H, we were never friends. I used you to get to the top, but you used me as well to stay at the top. And it's that thing of a heel doesn't think he's a heel. A heel can justify what he's doing.
I love that.
And I just thought that it played so well into a really natural story of him coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost looks like perfect long-term storytelling. If he hadn't been out for 4 years and had been out a year or something like that. And it genuinely does, though.
Yeah, it does.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe, like, I was doing the maths. Was it really 4 years he missed? Because that, I mean, we'll talk about some of it as the match is going, but loads of back surgeries. And, you know, I hurt my back about 2 weeks ago, and I can just about now sit normally. And it's like, some of the stuff he's doing, he's been through surgery, like real surgery.
Yeah.
And he's doing, like, taking loads of punishment in the match, but it's not just that, it's the way he moves his body, and he's still doing all the selling that he used to do in the old days and all that. Oh, it's crazy. I can, when I hurt my back, and mine's only muscular, I can't get out of bed in the mornings.
Yeah. I was shocked at this match. This is amazing. I don't know if this was given a 5-star, but it should have been. It's got, like, the storytelling in it is unbelievable. I wasn't prepared for the level of violence that was coming.
Yeah.
And I was so shocked by the level of punishment that Michaels was taking on his back. It's unbelievable. It's just, I don't know, it's like addressing the elephant in the room head on by smashing it in the face.
Yeah. Now, obviously, he'll have had, you know, the medical checks and things like that, and I'm sure he'll have been working out in a ring for a while, seeing what he could do, all that kind of thing. I mean, he could easily have come back in a different way and never been in a ring taking a bump again. And I'm sure as soon as he was, you know, clean, I'm sure they would have given him basically whatever role he would have asked for. And you've got, like, the fact that, you know, JR, I always think is very good.
Oh my God. He was basically a third man in the ring.
Yeah. He's so good at telling the story and really ramming home this is what Michaels has been through. This is the relationship they used to have. Not just, you know, you see it on an intro package, but he's continuing to tell the story all the way through the match. It's, he's one of there's some matches I can't imagine anyone else announcing on, and that this would be one of them.
The way, I think the way that he behaves, JR, in this match, the way that he's so against Triple H, like taken aback by Triple H. You've got the way that Errol Hebner's reacting to what Triple H is doing. It all just tells all the same story. It's all part of the same story, and it just weaves together beautifully.
And I like the fact, you know, they start the match and you've had the story, you've had the backstory. This is a fight. So we've seen so much wrestling on the card already, but this is a fight. And yeah, there's wrestling moves woven through it, but all logic tells you this is going to be a fight, and it should be. But I think it sits really well because so much around it was good technical wrestling.
Aye. But totally. I kind of expected a bit of a brawl, and Shawn Michaels started pulling out the trash cans, and I kind of expected that because I thought he might rely on chairs, weapons, and not actually do very much, but that absolutely wasn't the case at all. Yeah,
I've always hated the trash can spots in matches because they just look so flimsy. Yeah. I always look at them and think that's not going to do you any damage at all. I think it's probably my least favourite weapon through all weapons matches.
We've got you saying that on tape now. Do you have a favourite weapon?
Now, I always liked the, although it's brutal, I always liked the baseball bat with barbed wire around it.
There you go.
I think I'd maybe go for that.
Okay. Good to know. I'd like a good old-fashioned kendo stick.
Oh, nice.
Makes a good noise.
Yeah, makes a great noise, actually. We've got after the trash can stuff. I've got notes about Triple H with backbreakers
Oh my
on
God.
Michaels, and I'm looking at this is what I suppose wrestling should be. But I'm kind of looking and going, you know, and it's that thing of thinking that has to hurt. That
You're
has
almost
to hurt.
sickened by what he's doing, and that's what they want you to be. That's how they want you
Yeah.
to feel, and JR's making you feel like that as well. But when he does a few backbreakers, but it's that thing like how we were describing with Benoit, it looks like they hurt.
Yeah.
But then he pulls out a steel chair and just slams it, his sidewalk slams him through it.
Yeah. Oh.
Unbelievable.
We've got quite a lot of I think it's JR says it at a point that Triple H wants Michaels to end up in a wheelchair, and it's that thing of, because of the character Triple H is and because of the build, you're fully in this and believing that is what his desired outcome for this match was.
Yeah.
And they kind of come back to that a little bit later on.
JR's brilliant. He's saying, how can you want that? How can you want that for anyone? He's so good at calling Triple H a son of a bitch as well.
Yeah, he's brilliant at it. And then you start the story, because the punishment's there, of the sort of heart of Michaels, who they're basically, and the announcers again, they're selling it as just, it's best to just stop now. Just stay down, give up, quit. But he won't. And, you know, the crowd are building with this. Basically, every time he has some little mini comeback against what's going on, the crowd are popping for it, but then it's kind of taken away from them so quickly.
Yeah.
It's just so well done.
And to kind of turn the tables a little bit, I can't remember what it is that busts open Triple H. But there's something about Triple H. I remember it from those matches with Cactus Jack as well, where he's burst open and he's lost a lot of blood and he's doing that kind of airy-fairy walking, like he doesn't 100% know where he is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like perfect selling for me. I love that.
Yeah. Is it, I'm trying to think, is it when Triple H is holding the chair and Michaels hits Sweet Chin Music?
That's exactly what it is, yep.
Yeah. And we've got a moment where I'm probably jumping around. I'm definitely jumping around a bit here, because there's some moves being executed on the chair, like when he sets up the chair, when he sets it up and does the backbreaker on it. Again, I'm just looking, thinking, you're
just wincing.
And then you've got the sidewalk slam onto the chair. Michaels just won't stay down. Triple H setting up the pedigree to do on the chair, but Michaels pulls a low blow out of nowhere.
Yep.
And Triple H has a chair. Yeah, that's where he approaches Michaels, the Sweet Chin Music. Triple H now covered in blood. They're both covered in blood. And you've got Shawn Michaels doing what do they call it? A nip up.
Yep.
And I'm looking, thinking, I mean, I can't imagine, even when I was, 6 years old, being able to execute something like that. And this guy's had back surgery, and he manages to do it. It's just mind blowing.
My God, the crowd are going absolutely wild for that. The crowd are in this match. There's nobody checking their phones, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a point where they're on the outside. Michaels does a brilliant thing. He takes the ring steps are split into two, so he takes the top bit off. Yeah. And he has Triple H sort of facing them. He takes off in the opposite direction, runs all the way around the ring, then bulldogs him.
Yep.
Onto the steps. Never seen that done before. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Once he's done that, he comes walking along the side and he has a look under the ring, and I think he maybe looks up at the fans and sort of has a bit of a snigger, and then pulls the ladder out, and the fans just go absolutely mental.
Yeah. There's a point where so quite a few weapons have got involved. We've had a chair for a while, but there is a point where Triple H has gone out looking for the sledgehammer, and he's brought it in the ring, but he's never actually been able to use it, and it's just kind of sitting ominously in the corner. And there's other weapons getting involved. I'm pretty sure there's a table gets brought in. There's a ladder gets brought in and set up in the corner, which Shawn Michaels does an elbow drop off. Yeah. And yeah, so it just feels like it's building and building and building, but it's probably the first point where there's been like a period of offense for Michaels, and it seems like he's on top. And I'm trying to look and think when they actually go towards a finishing sequence.
So we get Triple H put on the table on the outside.
Yeah.
Michaels goes up to the top and he makes a sort of run his finger around his head sort of thing, as if to say, I'm off my nut. And he does just, like, this was a splash from the top turnbuckles down through the table. And like these days, you probably get that about 4 times on Raw and 4 times on SmackDown. But given the story that's just been told, it felt massive. It felt like, oh my God, that was ridiculous. Once that's happened, they get in the ring and just how you've described, he hits the elbow from the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
That's where we go in our sequence of him. He's hit that. I think he's maybe tried to pin him. He goes over at the corner and starts tuning up the band.
Yeah.
For Sweet Chin Music, and the fans. I mean, the building's shaking when he's going to hit the Sweet Chin Music.
Yeah. Triple H blocks it to go for a pedigree, and Michaels reverses the pedigree into a roll up for the win. And I don't know. I quite like see when these matches finish not with somebody's finishing move. Because we've not got the Sweet Chin Music hitting here. We've not got pedigree, obviously, but I always feel like it leaves doors open when it's not a finisher, because you're kind of left thinking, well, could Michaels have survived a pedigree?
He's
that
kind
of thing. Yeah, and it feels like it's close, and you're probably just thinking, oh, there's going to be a return match here, and then, oh, that dastardly bastard
covered in blood. Michaels is celebrating with the crowd, and bang, Triple H hits him in the back with the sledgehammer.
Yep, does it twice. And
does he do it twice?
Yeah, he's done it the first time, then he does it again, and it's almost like kind of a hush over the crowd, because it's like that. I can't believe that happened.
Oh my God, because like they've been building them. They've had them in the palm of their hand. I think I've written that down. Michaels essentially got the crowd in the palm of his hand. He got that huge, big win. They want to celebrate with him.
Yeah.
And it just gets completely taken away from them. It's perfect.
We end up with Triple H covered in blood, walking down the ramp, looking so pleased with himself. He's lost the match, but it's like he's won the war. And you've got Michaels with all the medical team coming in and then basically getting taken out in a stretcher.
Hold on. Was it a medical team, or is it one guy in a lab coat?
It's one guy.
Why is he wearing a lab coat?
Yeah, it's a fair question.
I don't want to pick holes in this. This is maybe like, having spoke about it now, I think it might be one of my favourite matches I've ever seen.
Yeah, and you've ruined it with the lab coat. But
it wasn't me that ruined it, excuse me, it was Dr. Robotnik with a lab coat.
I have written at the end, this is just a match I haven't seen often enough, and it's one of my favourites. And it's one of those where, when you don't want to watch a match over and over again because you get sick of it or a bit desensitised from what's going on.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, I've probably only seen this match twice or something like that, which just seems insane because it's amazing.
I think if the pay-per-view had ended then, I would have been a happy bunny.
Yeah, it's something I wondered about that I was going to pose a question about, because you've got the title matches still to come, along with some really weird shit with the Fink, but we can talk about that in a minute. But do you think that they should have been reversed? I praised earlier the positions on the card, thinking that they'd pretty much structured it right. But I'm pretty sure if I was there in the crowd, do I have anything left by the time the title match comes out?
This is, I wondered the same thing, and I wondered if this is why The Rock gets the sort of reception that he gets, and if it's something that they've been taking on such a ride.
Yeah.
They're just ready to boo somebody. They're just ready. I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually forgot that we still had that to come because I was so engaged in that match.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I can't put it over enough. I mean, if anyone happens to be listening to us that has not seen that match, just go and watch that match, because it's awesome. Watch this whole pay-per-view, but you will love that match.
Yeah, 100%.
What's going on with the Fink?
Well, I was going to ask you if you were interested in opening a pet store with me. Because you've got the puppies. And I've got the wiener.
What has become of the Fink?
This is total classic Vince. Nobody else would have wanted this. This would be Vince. I bet he was slapping his knee and doing his yuck, yuck, yuck laugh.
It's like, we've just seen one of the most emotional matches of all time. Now, I suppose I can kind of see, do you need a little bit of comic relief? But, this was the shits.
I liked when it was the drizzling, as Randy Orton would say. I did like, so we've got the Fink. And he says something like, you just expect him to do his wee introduction for the Undisputed title match, but he says, before this, I've got some things to get off my chest. He refers to himself as the Fink, I think.
Yeah.
And sorry, go on.
It's like bragging about his longevity, and, you know, I think he talks about how many SummerSlams and how many times he's been in that building or something like that. And then we've got Trish coming down. I'm always happy to see Trish, get her involved, but I was thinking, I don't really know what story they're telling here, because there's clearly something has been going on a few weeks, because I think Fink mentions Trish slapping him or something like that. And then she starts, you know, flirting with him a lot, and then...
Howie, she refers to him as.
Yeah, and then there's a hug, and the Fink seems absolutely delighted with the way things have turned there. And then there's the puppies situation. Yeah. And it all seems to be a setup for Lillian Garcia to get some revenge.
To slap the Fink.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the, what are they called again? Kayfabe Commentaries YouTube videos. Is his name Sean Oliver, the guy that does them?
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
Have you ever seen the one with X-Pac and what he says about Lillian Garcia?
No.
Alright, okay. Cool.
Oh dear. Okay. Do I want to know?
I don't know. Watch it and see what you think.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
this
then
was nonsense.
Yeah, and you know, you're sort of like you. I'm thinking this show could be done, and I would be happy walking away. And then after that, I'm thinking I don't want any more. I just let me have finished on a high. But then we've still got the title match to come, and they do a package. We see Brock Lesnar kind of destroying everyone. We get the feel of, you know, he's on this tear basically through the whole roster. We get a Rocky training montage.
We do.
And for The Rock, so, you know, that's fine.
It's funny, like, The Rock's a champion here, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, I think it's even mentioned, see, early on, I think it's in like the first, maybe after the first match, but in the interview segment, I think Heyman refers to the Rock as the underdog.
Does he?
Yeah. And it is kind of positioned like that. It's set up as the coronation of Lesnar. And that's, I've no issue with that, because, you know, I think The Rock's halfway out the door to Hollywood.
I think there's some, I think he goes to film the Sean William Scott film after this.
Okay.
Straight away after it. And that's probably, you and I spoke about him looking quite lean.
Yeah, he does.
Why.
It's quite weird, actually, how lean he is. And I've no issue with the fact you've been building your star, and, you know, I'm pretty sure Stone Cold's gone by now. Is he? Is he gone?
Yes, because it was the King of the Ring. It was the whole issue.
Yes, that's right. He comes back, but not for very long, and you probably know he's not got long left in his career. You know, the Rock has a few out the door, so you're needing to build stars, and they've obviously been pushing Lesnar very quickly, and I've no problem with that. And I think you've got your biggest star that's available on the show, and he's going to put over and drop the belt to well, the next big thing, as they're calling him. So that sort of basic story I've no issue with. It did feel a little bit throwaway in terms of The Rock. It's like, yeah, we're done with you, move on. But again, he's on his way out the door regardless. It's not like he's sitting there heartbroken about the way he's been treated on the way out. It wasn't, with everything that's gone, this wasn't a match that, like, in my notes and stuff, it doesn't stand out as a match. It's fine. It does a job. Sorry. There was an issue I had with it. Oh? You know how you talked about repetition in the previous with the shoulder and the things like that?
Yep.
Shawn Michaels does his nip up. And in this match, they both simultaneously.
Double one.
Yeah. And I feel like Michaels needed it. You know, everything, the back injury, everything. Yeah. And I felt like it took away a little bit from him being able to do it. It looked pretty cool, them both doing it. And on a different show, I would have been absolutely fine with it. But I just felt it makes it look, oh, well, look at all the people that can do this.
I am with you.
We've got, I think Brock Lesnar's dominating early. There's quite a lot of Paul Heyman involvement.
I've written that down. I've never seen Heyman get so physically involved in a match.
Yeah. And given they're wanting to put Lesnar over big, they're obviously not wanting to bury The Rock, but they're wanting to put Lesnar over. I was a little bit surprised by just how involved Heyman was.
Aye, same. I really was.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen him take any sort of move like that as well. It takes a rock bottom through the announcer's table.
Yeah, I'd never seen him take a move like that. I've seen him take a punch and things like that, but not a move like that. I also didn't remember, and I suppose I maybe wasn't watching a lot of it, certainly weekly, at the time this was going on. I don't remember Lesnar being all about the suplexes way back then. Like he was doing this like it was 2018. There was a hell of a lot of suplexes being hit. I remember for a couple of years it was basically every match he had about 3 years ago was just non-stop suplexes.
Yeah. I did like the way that I think at the very start The Rock's doing his, he did this sort of succession of punches. Yeah. And Lesnar just grabbed him and did a belly and threw him over his head, and it was like, wow.
Yeah, and there's a couple of moments, because there's one right near the finishing sequence where The Rock is who he is, and some of the stuff he does is a bit over the top and a bit unnecessarily flashy, showy, and things like that. And it almost feels like, you can't do that with this guy. It's going to catch up with you and you'll pay for it. Which I thought was, again, quite a nice story. Because, again, if you're building Lesnar as this almost impossible to beat machine, then any time wasting, anything showy or flashy, I can see logically you would pay for to some extent.
Yeah. I think it's impossible to speak about this match without speaking about the crowd and the crowd's reaction to The Rock and how he deals with that. I don't know. I've sort of mixed feelings about this. So 2 seconds in, I think we get a Rocky Sucks chant. I'm fairly sure. We're getting Let's Go Lesnar chants quite a lot. Yeah. Just randomly throughout the match. For me, it comes to a head maybe 3/4 of the way through where The Rock puts him in the sharpshooter. What are they shouting? Oh, it's Let's Go Lesnar they're shouting. Yeah. When he's in the sharpshooter and The Rock's sort of looking about. I don't know. How do you feel about the way? Because obviously we've seen this before. We saw this with Hogan and Rock at WrestleMania 18. Yeah. And that may, you know that thing of wrestling fans, they like see something, it's like the what chant. It's bloody annoying to watch, but I guarantee if you went to the show, you'd be wanting to shout what.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, it's an interesting one, because I thought he looked annoyed by it, like The Rock. It's obviously not the plan, because you can see it happening with a Hogan. And I think, I've listened to podcasts about that WrestleMania, and I think Pritchard has said, well, we always know there's a risk. There's always going to be Hogan fans. And as long as basically there's wrestling, those fans will be there, and it'll be the same with Stone Cold. Now, he'll continue to get the biggest pop whenever he comes out until all those fans are gone, basically. But the Hogan thing, you could see it, but Lesnar's never really been anything but a heel.
Yeah.
And he is associated with a manager that makes you a heel. And I think this one probably came as a shock. Because I'm sure they were thinking, well, he's the babyface, he's the heel. This is really cut and dried. I'm not going to say I thought it through The Rock, but there's just some facials I was thinking, I don't think he's very pleased with this reaction that he's getting here.
Normally you would expect him to, well, obviously we know what The Rock's like, and we've seen him, and this is 2002, we've seen him at sort of peak heel in 98, 99, where he's absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And this sort of babyface version of him is kind of similar to, I feel, to how we spoke about Edge. It's just a little bit...
just not an awful lot there.
Aye.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he was... I think he could have leaned into it, possibly, a bit more.
Yeah. Because he didn't play to it, even though I thought facially he looked annoyed
and confused, aye.
Yeah, but he didn't react to it as such, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I know what you mean about the character, because I think our favourite Rock was like those days in the Nation when he's just starting to take control, and he's I don't think cool heel is the right word. He's like this incredibly smarmy, arrogant guy.
Yeah.
But it plays into being a heel, and you can't help but, I don't know, laugh and react positively.
Enjoy it, aye.
Yeah. Whereas when he's the babyface, but he's not, he didn't have a mic in his hand. So he's not coming out and doing all his catchphrases and eyebrow raising, all that kind of stuff. I don't know, maybe you could have, I suppose the risk is they would have buried him, but maybe you could have got round it if he'd gone to the ring first and had a microphone and just had a few things to say before it started. But I always preferred him as a heel. There's more character there when he's a heel.
And I think as a face, he needs like a Triple H, like a really strong character heel.
Yeah.
To go up against a dastardly heel if they want him to play that babyface. Whereas I think the way that Lesnar was being positioned, which we obviously talked about with the package, it just made him look like an absolute beast.
Yeah.
And although he was a heel, like you say, and the way that Heyman was acting in the match was probably to emphasise that. Mm-hmm. It just maybe never got over the way that it should have. Yeah,
because I suppose if you were... Heyman in match couldn't have done more to elicit the boos from the crowd. And he even, as you say, goes through the announce desk. I've got a note about Rock hitting a rock bottom on Lesnar in the middle of the ring. And when Lesnar kicks out, the cheer when Lesnar kicks out is quite something.
That's crazy.
And then you've got Lesnar hitting a rock bottom on The Rock.
Like that.
Yeah, me too. And it mixes things up a bit when you see somebody doing the other person's finisher. I like those moments.
When Austin and Rock traded the rock bottom and stunners.
Yeah. When we're heading towards the finishing sequence, you've got a spine buster by The Rock, and we know what that's designed to set up. And he starts, he does his removing the elbow pad, he looks at the crowd, he does the crisscross on the ropes, and Brock just jumps up and hits him with a massive clothesline. And I really liked that because you've got, like, they've talked before about, the people's elbow was never supposed to be a serious thing. And this has come out over the years. It was a over-the-top reaction to an elbow drop. Yeah. And it was supposed to be a bit like, it was supposed to be a little bit mocking of the leg drop by Hogan.
Okay.
How much damage is that really causing you? Nobody ever kicks out of that. That's a bit weird type thing. And then the Rock's making a massive show of the fact he's going for it. And the fact that he does the running the ropes for as long as he does, there's so much time for somebody to get up. But never actually having seen anyone do it, which, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
It's the fact that he got up and smashed him the way he did as well.
Yeah. Then we've got Lesnar going for an F5, but Rock fights out of it. Rock going for a rock bottom, but Lesnar fighting out of that. And then Lesnar catches him and hits the F5 for the pin win.
I expected him to kick out that F5, did you?
No, I think I remembered that because the F5 certainly in the early years was really protected.
Yeah, no, I was totally pleasantly surprised. I was like, yes, no kick out.
Mm-hmm.
A finishing move's a finishing move.
Yeah, and you know, if you're having your monster, I suppose his finishing move has got to be a finishing move.
100%. Like, look at The Rock there. The Rock's put him over. There's probably nothing else he could have done to put him over. He's had him kick out his finishing move. He's cleaned him. He's pinned him clean with his finisher. Like, The Rock's done everything right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I sometimes imagine when you're, going back, if you're one of the performers going back through the curtain, I do imagine, Vince, even though maybe the crowd reactions didn't go the way they wanted it, there's nothing he can say to The Rock about any negativity. He's totally put him over. He's put him over clean. He's done the job on the way out, as you're, supposed to do. They've crowned the next big thing. They mention in the commentary he's the youngest champion in WWE history. And I think that it's one of the right at the very end, I think it's Taz on that commentary side said, who the hell's going to be able to stop Lesnar?
I really like that line.
Yeah, and it's such a simple line, but it just adds something, So yeah, I thought it was fine, but it was really hard to follow what had been for the street fight. But a really, really good show overall.
I've said unbelievable about a million times, but just incredible pay-per-view. Thank you for picking it.
You're welcome.
Restored my faith in watching wrestling.
Awesome.
So that can only leave me to disappoint you with what I'm going to pick. I considered going with the next pay-per-view, which was Unforgiven, 2002. Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker was the main event of that. I considered that. I considered going, so far away from that. Looked at 89, 88 Survivor Series.
Yep.
Thought about some of these old WCW pay-per-views as well, which I'd probably like to get to at some point. However, I really, really enjoyed Triple H in this, and I wanted something similar, so I have decided for No Way Out 2001.
Okay.
Which is the 3 Stages of Hell, Stone Cold versus Triple H.
Wow.
And is also headlined by The Rock versus Kurt Angle.
I haven't seen that show for a very long time. That'll be fun.
Do you want me to tell you what else is on that?
Go for it.
Big Show versus Raven.
Okay.
Hardcore title match. We've got a 4-way Intercontinental Championship match. Jericho, Benoit, X-Pac, Eddie Guerrero.
Okay.
Trish Stratus versus Stephanie McMahon.
Okay.
Stone Cold Triple H, 3 Stages of Hell.
Love
I
it.
seem to remember them having just a really fun rivalry.
Yeah, because had they been teaming for a while, or did that come after?
No, that was after. So this is the pay-per-view just before WrestleMania 17.
Okay.
And that came after when Austin turned heel.
Yeah, got you.
Edge and Christian, so a triple threat tag team title match. Edge and Christian v the Dudleys versus Kane and Undertaker.
Nice.
And The Rock v Kurt Angle.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that because it's one of those shows. It's a bit like this one where I kind of know it, but I don't remember it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be good fun. Yeah, cool.
Excellent. Oh well. After last time, I went straight away and watched the Smackdown before SummerSlam 02 and thoroughly enjoyed it, to the point where I was like, let's watch every Smackdown round about that area. It was amazing. Might do the same here. I'll see.
Yeah, the early days of SmackDown isn't something I feel like I saw enough. Like, I think I'd mentioned, certainly to you previously, that I remember like coming in from the pub on a Saturday night and thinking, well, what's this? Because Raw's on a Friday night, and thinking, what's this show? And I was like, why are all the wrestlers like backstage sitting in chairs and all that? And just, having had quite a few beers, trying to get my head around what was going on, and that there's a new show. Okay. And because it was on a Saturday night, I just don't think I saw it as often. I think I was usually out back in those days, in my prime. Whereas I remember I used to, certainly for a period of time, I would always watch Raw. But I think I'd moved away from watching it regularly when SmackDown was starting. So it was more just a drunken something to put on the telly in that in-between stage of getting in and having some food before going to sleep.
Aye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
So old SmackDowns are something I might even just watch some of them just for fun. But,
Excuse, don't be going off just doing your own thing here.
But I could use it as a testing. Yeah, I could feed back to you and be like, yeah, we should watch every SmackDown from then to then.
Yes. I like to get excited about doing something and then change my mind the next day. So I'm all about that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're not back on every event of 98, then we're fine.
Avoid WCW at all costs. Right, thank you for that. If anyone out there is listening and has watched SummerSlam 2002, give us a shout on Outlaws Pod on Instagram. And if there's a better SummerSlam pay-per-view, I would love to know what it is, because that was just absolutely tremendous. Right, Adam. What did I call you? Ezekiel. Right, Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Give your best to your big brother. Give my best to your big brother. Yep. And
I'll just play along with it now. Right. I can't remember. I can't think which side I'm supposed to be on here. Whether I'm supposed. So if I'm him, then I guess I'm fully aware of me. I'm just not sure who the Kevin Owens is in this scenario.
Who am I? Maybe we'll have a lie detector test for the next podcast. Right, until next episode, until episode 29, where we'll be in hell. 3 stages with No Way Out. 2001. Until then, take it easy, Adam.
Thank you. You too.
Ezekiel.